I'm going to tell this fast and honest, the way it felt, not the way a press release would polish it. My 7-year-old walked into Whitaker Dynamics with a wrinkled envelope while I stood in the shadows of a marble lobby that smelled like lemon and money. And before anyone could decide she didn't belong, she said, "Teddy as a little lighthouse. Can you give this to Mr. Grant Whitaker? Please, my mom says it's very important and right." Then I knew either the truth was going to save us or it was going to swallow us whole. Security did what security does. Private building, move along. A hand reached for her arm and my breath just stopped. But Jenna Pike, head of security, the kind of woman who notices what power ignores, crouched to my daughter's height, asked her name, glanced up when she heard mine, and said the words that changed everything. "Come on, honey, we're going to the 47th floor." The elevator was glass on 3 sides, Harbor City stacked under our feet, like a map you could fold. Lila, in her yellow dress, squeezed the envelope and whispered, "If Mr. Grant was nice," and Jenna told her yes in that calm voice people use when they've seen all kinds of trouble and still believe in second chances, you know what I mean. The executive floor was quiet enough to hear a pen cap click. Ms. Aldridge at the desk looked like she'd never been surprised in her life until she heard my name. The oak doors didn't just open. They surrendered. And there he was, Grant at the window, tie loosened, looking like a headline and a human at the same time, and beside him, Miranda Cole, arms folded, gaze sharp enough to cut a silk tie, measuring my child like a problem to be solved. Lila stepped up. No flinch, no fuss. "Mr. Grant, this is from my mom." And he came around the desk. Slow, like the floor was thin, Ice knelt, asked how old she was, heard 7-8 next month. And I watched the moment recognition hit him, the way a face changes when it finally sees what the heart already knows. His hands shook when he took the letter. Same tell he had back when we were 2 broke dreamers running on coffee and hope. And then he read my words, simple and bare. "If you're reading this, I'm too sick to explain. Lila is your daughter." I left because I believed a lie handed to me with a smile. "I'm sorry, please don't turn her away." The room softened for one breath, and then Miranda's voice snapped it like glass. "Grant, anyone can coach a child, don't be gullible." And Lila, my brave little lighthouse, said, "I'm not lying, my mom has pictures," and Grant didn't even glance at Miranda. He looked at Lila like a man who just remembered the word hope, and he asked, voice breaking, "Would you like to call me Dad?" And when she lit up, it was like the sun came inside. He canceled his day, told the assistant to find Dr. Park at St. Augustine General, said we were going to the hospital now, and for the first time in years, I breathed. Hospital lights are mean when you're poor and tired, everything too bright and too loud, Dr. Park said. Pneumonia and malnutrition, and 3 jobs that ate me alive. Night cleaning day, waitressing, bookkeeping. In between said I'd collapsed with a pen still in my apron, and Grant clenched his jaw like he wanted to fight gravity, said, "Whatever it costs, she stays." And when he walked into my room, I'd put on the teal gown because I missed the teal dress he loved. He stopped like a man who'd wandered into a chapel and didn't mean to pray. He took out a tiny tissue-wrapped box, unwrapped the sapphire ring that had matched that dress, said, "Quiet." I kept it 7 years, and Lila tried the word daddy on her tongue, and it fit. If this was a fairy tale, credits would roll here. Yeah, that happened. But power does not lose politely by morning. Miranda had called board members, investors. A reporter spun a story where I was a problem. Lila, a prop, Grant, a liability. Old playbook, guard the gate, scare the money, pretend that love is bad for business. And while she dialed the world, Jenna and Noah Reyes, the COO, started pulling thread after thread, bank records, humming with cash deposits to Miranda. The week I disappeared, an invoice for a freelance photographer, who stitched together the fake photos that broke my life, emails that read helpful, but tasted like poison when you said them out loud, and the truth started making a paper trail with teeth. Then the next swing, two women marched into St. Augustine with documents claiming Lila had been abandoned and belonged to them. The older one introduced herself as Evelyn Cole. Miranda's aunt lawyer at her side, papers, slapping counters like verdicts. "Step aside, Mr. Whitaker, you have no standing." And Jenna badge out, voice syrup sweet and firm as oak, said funny thing about fraud. It throws long shadows, and Grant calm like the eye of a storm, said, "You will not go near my daughter if a judge needs us. We'll be in chambers, not here scaring nurses." Our lawyers arrived, Dr. Park backed us, the hospital locked down our room, and I listened to my daughter read a book out loud with a little tremor in her voice that made me want to burn the world down and build a safer one. 2 days later, Miranda walked into our room, uninvited, black suit like a funeral, eyes bright and cold, and Lila glanced up with that sixth sense kids have. I sent her to ask Dr. Park about the ice cream machine so innocents wouldn't have to stand in the splash zone. And Miranda started with 8 years, Grant. "You're going to throw away everything we built," and I said, steady even while my hands shook under the blanket. "You built a wall around him out of lies. We aren't calling that a home." And she looked at me like I'd tracked mud on her marble, said, "I was a receptionist out of my depth," and she did him a favor. You know what I mean? And Grant stepped in. I would trade every dollar for 1 day of the life we should have had. I didn't need rescuing. I needed honesty. And then Noah came in with a folder like a hammer, laid out the prints, layered them with raw source files, timestamps that didn't match lighting, that didn't belong, an invoice with Miranda's name, bank records, humming like fluorescent lights, Evelyn's sealed settlements for prior fraud, unsealed for pattern, and the room just went still. The kind of still that comes before a storm reroutes or breaks, and Miranda tried one last time. Those could be fabricated now, and Noah said they could if we didn't have the raw camera files. But we do, and hospital security waited while officers took statements in the hall. She didn't cry. I don't think she knows how. She just softened her voice and told Grant she loved him, and that he was never going to have the life he wanted with me. And before he could answer, I did. "Then you didn't love him. You loved a painting of him. You hung over the life you actually had," and they led her away. Evelyn would meet her mirror later, and I didn't feel triumphant. I felt like my knees could finally stop locking. The DNA came back. Lila is Grant's biological daughter. We knew now the paper knew the judge signed emergency custody so nobody could yank the floor again. Lila asked if she could be Lila Whitaker, and I asked if I could make up 7 birthdays. We both laughed into the same tissue, and when I was strong enough, Grant drove us to Harbor Park, to the same maple and the same bench where he'd asked me to marry him when we were young and stupid and happy. He knelt in the grass and said my name without caution. Ava. I wasted 8 years on silence and pride. Will you let me spend the rest making it right? Will you let me be Lila's dad in every way? Will you take back the name that should have always been yours? And I said yes with my whole chest. We kept it small 3 months later. Teal for me, yellow for Lila. Jenna cried behind sunglasses. Dr. Park hugged us like she'd adopted us too. Noah walked me down the aisle because you honor the people who stood where others didn't. We did the adoption. Right there, Judge asked Lila if she wanted Grant to be her dad forever, and she said, please, and everyone laughed, the way people laugh when joy is too big for quiet. We put a simple gold band on her tiny finger, and she stared at it like treasure. 6 months after that, I stood in a glass conference room, presenting Brooks Whitaker Events, a company I built at 2 a.m. With cough drops and stubbornness, a board member asked if my success was just proximity. I smiled and said, "The books are clean and the clients sign their own checks. Audit us, please, the math will treat us both fairly if we let it." And after Lila came barreling through the garage to tell us her teacher picked her essay about families getting lost and finding each other, we went for ice cream, doctor. Park's voicemail said my blood work looked good, and better than good. We were having a baby, and Lila announced she'd teach the baby to read, and that its name should be Pancake. And yeah, that happened. Maybe you hear billionaire and think I planned it. Hear receptionist and think I got lucky. Hear adoption and wedding and baby and decide the math adds to easy. But here's what I know. I was the girl people called sweet, like it was a warning label. The woman who believed a pretty lie because it came in a suit. The mother who worked herself flat because love is fuel that never runs out. I sent my kid into the room that once broke me, and she walked out holding a father because strangers chose to be decent, because truth had receipts, because someone finally picked love over optics. So tell me where you land on this. When a working-class woman shows up in a room built to exclude her, is she a problem to be managed or a partner to be respected? When a man with money chooses family over the brand, is that weakness or wisdom? And if you've ever believed a lie that cost too much, what brought you back? Drop a comment. Argue with me, tell me what gatekeeping you've seen or what quiet courage you've witnessed. Hit subscribe. If you believe second chances belong to those who show up and tell me one thing, in a marble lobby with a kid in a yellow dress asking a stranger to read a letter, which adult are you going to be?